I think you can coach people to be pretty good tacklers, but I don't know that you can coach people to be great hitters. I think it's an instinct and something that they're born with, that tremendous explosion they have right at the point of impact.
The old saying is, if they don't bite when they're puppies, they're not usually going to bite. And I think when you get a young player and a guy that comes up and in high school he's a pretty good hitter, or in college he's a pretty good hitter, comes into professional football and it just carries forward.
By the time they get to pro football, I think the only thing you control in terms of contact teaching is the emotional side of it. I think if a player is a very intense guy, or the organization becomes more intense on Sunday, the more intense you are, the more apt you are to be a heavy hitter on Sunday.
You have to mentally make yourself ready to go out and realize that it's such a physical game that, you know, it's better to be the hitter than the hittee.
Nowhere in the NFL is this philosophy practiced more than in the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, an international showcase for athletic achievement for 5 decades. Everything from Super Bowls to Olympiads. Today, it belongs to the Los Angeles Raiders. No team in professional sports intimidates opponents more effectively. And no member of this team is more relentless in his intimidation than defensive lineman Howie Long.
The Raiders, I show up at camp. They didn't ask me to bench any weight. They didn't ask me to do any vertical jumps. They didn't ask me to do any broad jumps. They didn't ask me to hop in a think tank and see how my bad dreams were. They gave me a helmet. You're going to play defensive line, and I started to play. I didn't know how to get to the quarterback, so my one move was just come off the ball and run everyone over. And if that didn't work, I tried to fight them. But they called me caveman because they just liked the way I attacked people. My background in football knowledge was so limited that they would be going over terminology such as out of east eye right, triple slot left. And immediately I started looking around the room like, you know, is anyone else picking this stuff up? You know, or am I the only one that's not getting this? And it turns out I was like the only one that wasn't getting it. They had to literally take me from square one to where I am now.
A surprise second-round draft choice from Villanova has matured into the game's most menacing defensive presence.
When you start to draw up plays, you are conscious of where he is. And you are conscious of saying, we have to do something about this guy or he may destroy what we're trying to do in the game.
He's used at left defensive end, left defensive tackle, nose tackle, right defensive tackle, right defensive end. The most dominant force in defensive football today.
No one is immune to his greatness. For Long, attacks from all 5 defensive line positions.
Instead of one offensive lineman preparing for me, all 5 have to prepare for me. They never know where I'm coming from.
He has that knack of gathering himself and getting into the offensive blocker and at the same time continuing to move toward the quarterback. A lot of defensive linemen start playing games with the offensive tackle and they don't make progress toward the quarterback. But everything that Howie Long does is done toward the quarterback.
The ultimate team player, Long often ties up a trio of enemy pass blockers to make way for a teammate.
As long as I hear Matt Millen on the tackle or Bill Pickell on the tackle or Sean Jones on the tackle, as long as someone is making the tackle and it's not for a big gain, then I can get up from the bottom of the pile and figure I did my job. You can be a total player and an unselfish player and not necessarily a big statistical player and be a success and be considered to be one of the best at what you do.
Here's the rush. He's hit as he throws. Intercepted by Stacy Turan, the 25, the 30, the 40, left side 50, down to the 40, down to the 30. Nobody close. All the way. Touchdown Raiders!
But hard-nosed Howie is not without a sense of humor. Take, for example, the time he invaded the Seattle Seahawks offensive huddle and walked off with their water bottle.
I was a bit frustrated, and our water boys are like, the rest of the team. They're just, they were probably talking to someone up in the stands during the timeout, and we hadn't gotten any water out. So I walked into their huddle and took their water from their water boy and said, give me that bottle. They really don't deserve it. They hadn't done anything today. It was all in a joke, really. They kind of liked it.
For Howie Long, the thrill of the kill is secondary to the challenge of the chase.
I haven't seen many quarterbacks maiming people, so, I think they're kind of an afterthought. I think the justification and the real moment of glory is when you beat that man in front of you to get to the quarterback. And if a quarterback's not too squirmy about it, I really don't try to hit him that hard. I'm not a violent type of person, I appall violence. It just makes me ill. It's right up there with beats. Ugh. I really just don't like violence, but sometimes, they hit that switch, and it just, I get that kind of, they call it Howie time. My teammates call it Howie time, and I kind of get that faraway look where I see through people.
When Howie Long lapses into his particular brand of tunnel vision, there's rarely any light at the end of it for Raider opponents.
He's a guy that you hate to play against him, but from a coach's standpoint, you admire the guy and just wish he was on your football team.
Elway setting up. Big rush coming. He's buried for the third sacking of the day. Might have fumbled. He did. Raiders recover. Raiders recover. Elway was just snowed under. There was too much defensive push.
If you take everything into consideration, both run and pass, Howie Long's the best defensive lineman in football.
Howie Long, quintessential crunch time.
The key to it is hustle. If I don't hustle as much as I should have during a game, I go home at night and I really lose a lot of sleep over it. I like to think of myself as being relentless. I like to be thought of as being that way, relentless. I like that word.